cachucha, and you got your cachucha. This meeting is being live streamed. I don't think anyone's following me on YouTube just yet, but they will. So everyone, welcome to Friday Fire. This is a series that has been going on since February. This meeting is being live streamed. 2022. I hear an echo. I don't think anyone's following me on YouTube just yet, but they will. Oh, hey, there's my YouTube.
Oh,
let me stop that. Go back.
It's synced.
So, note to self, don't have your YouTube page opened on yourself when you're live streaming. But we looked great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenda Vaca. I am your host of Friday Fire, a series that was started back in February 2022 on Instagram, and it's been strictly on Instagram Live. Since then, it's something I do mostly weekly, and I've been looking to change the platform a bit and jump over to the good old YouTube. And Diosa X, who has been a host on my show before, is always down to be the first to go when doing experimentations. So everyone, welcome Diosa Xochiquetzalcoatl, who is a poet, a slam champion, an author of 3 books now. And I'm excited to be in conversation with you. I always am. In addition to being a kick-ass writer, Diosa is a good friend of mine. And so I'm just really grateful to get to work with her. Get to work with someone that you care about is always an amazing thing. Let me go ahead and introduce you to Diosa so you know who you are going to be hearing from today. Diosa Xochiquetzalcoatl, poet, slam champion, educator. Diosa X is a multilingual and multidimensional 3-time slam spoken word champion and international poetisa and workshop presenter. She is a seasoned language arts educator with a bachelor's in English and a master's in cross-cultural teaching. Diosa X is a proud member of Tesoro, an international women's poetry troupe, Círculo de Poetas and Writers, California Poets in Schools, as a teacher now. You were a teacher in training once upon a time, but you just up-leveled last week, I believe, maybe a week and a half ago. You're official on the roster with California Poets in the Schools, CABE, CABE, and Inlandia. Diosa comes to us today with her 3rd poetry collection, West of the Santa Ana and Other Sacred Places, that will be brought to you by my independent publishing house, Riot of Roses Publishing. Her other collections include self-titled or a self-published collection in 2021 called A Church of My Own, and Hechicera Sus Sultry Spells, edited and published by Editorial Raíces in 2022. So you can see that this poet publishes a book a year. You can find all of her pertinent information on her link tree. Just look for Diosa X. So everyone, this is Diosa. Welcome, Diosa.
Good morning. Good morning, man. I'm so excited to be here. Unlike the first time that I was like so nervous and trying to hide behind you.
Oh, right. We were in the same space doing it.
Yes, out in Fullerton, and I'm like trying to hide behind you. And I'm a little less camera shy now. So
Mira nomás, you're showing some skin this morning. I love it.
You can't see my little flower with a little red rose. Just for you.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. Again, this is the first time I'm hosting on YouTube, so there might be some glitches. It might take me a minute to figure out how to end when we get to that moment. But for now, we're just keeping it chill. We're keeping it casual, which is always my vibe when I have these conversations. I like to tell people that it feels like in the case of Diosa, it's absolutely true. I'm just chatting with a friend about their creativity, their writing process, and what they have going on in their universe. So I always love to start with the spoken word, with the poetry, or if I ever have a singer on a song. But actually, I did have a singer on once upon a time. But Diosa's going to kick us off with a poem. We'll see if it's from her new collection, perhaps.
Sounds good. Let me. Here we go. So I'm actually, if my phone cooperates, sorry. I'm actually going to start with the first poem in the book, which is not even listed as a poem. It's actually the preface. And so here we go. Included with a little picture. My poems are like pictures. They capture moments in time, sometimes good, sometimes not. Some are portraits of timeless stories, while others are merely fading snapshots.
I love that piece. That's a quite a preface, a poetic preface that you include. And you mention in that preface about the snapshots. And one thing that folks will see in this collection, if they're already familiar with your work, your prior books, Hechicera, your first book, A Church of My Own, this one you included a lot of photography. Yeah, tell us about the decision you made to do that.
So, this book takes us back, back to my beginning, back to the beginning, and so I thought it very appropriate to include pictures that captured those moments, those places. Some of them are just scenic, and then I threw in a sprinkling of me and my world, or what it used to be, and yeah. So
your cute little childhood self.
Yes,
baby Diosa in this
yes, you get to meet. I think I was 2, and then the other one I must have been like 7 or 8. And of course my evolution up until recent. But this just a sprinkling. I think there's a good balance between scenery and a couple of pics of me.
Yay. And it's so interesting that again, this is your third collection, and you talk about, you're going back. Can you tell us it kind of feels like you've rounded out a trilogy, really. Did you intend that out the door? Like, was that your vision as you were putting together A Church of My Own? We know you're a prolific writer. You drop poems just like, beep, 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 Was that the original thought, or
not at all?
Where did it come from? Mm-hmm.
Not at all. So, I want. Okay. So, in the back of my mind, when I was in Pasadena, because I move a lot, I'm a Libra, and so when I was there, I started putting together a chapbook, and that's where Hechicera was born. But then when we joined CLI and we actually started putting a book together, that's where A Church was born. And A Church included some of my first pieces. So I would say, half of the book are the poems that had already been in existence and never shared with the world. And the other half we created in that program. Hechicera was started as, a small little chapbook, maybe 20 pages. um, because I said, I just need to get this out. And I was just going to print booklets. But of course, once a church, I said, oh, I can actually make a book.
A thick book at that.
Thick book. And so the poems that didn't work for church, I started filing them in Hechicera. And then when I got to Hechicera, the same thing. Poems that didn't fit in Hechicera ended up in a new file called West of the Santa. And I have other files where other poems have gone. But let's talk about this trilogy because
I like to call it the Holy Trinity, actually.
The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity.
Because my poems have a mind of their own. And so if you've followed me, you've seen how I sometimes talk about, I have this great opening line and the poem has nothing to do with that opening line. So now I have an opening line to start another poem because that poem just took off. That's what happened with the church. I was just finally going to publish my books. How did I want to do this? And it turned into this church that I self-published, a self-created church, the one I live in. And so this book was, divided into these 5 chapters and kind of has, I call it a healing journey through poems, right? So it's that end piece, what we strive for, that enlightenment, that healing, that sublime life that we all look for or strive for, or I hope is what we're trying to achieve.
We're trying.
And then Hechicera is like a precursor because it's the shadow. It's diving into our shadow selves and coming face to face with our shadows, embracing our shadows, empowering our shadows. And so Hechicera is at that underground, that underworld of humanity, of me, and of feminism as well.
You called it the basement of the church.
Correct.
I would say
that
Hechicera is the basement of the church.
And then with West of the Santa, it was last summer that I was really connecting with these childhood songs. And so in Hechicera, there's a couple of these like parodies where I totally flipped a childhood, and these are canciones mexicanas in Spanish that I completely flipped. I turned their characters upside down and inside out, and they're hilarious. Hilarious. And so that continued with West, but it's more about coming back home. It's more about going back to the beginning and roots. And I remember someone asked, is that going to include Mexicali? And interestingly enough, I kind of put a border. And so it stays in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and it, like you pointed out, it flies off the planet.
It does. Because the original title was West of the Santa Ana and a few sacred places. And I was like, this is not a few.
Correct. And I still need to update that one on my Facebook. I realized the other night. Because what my intention was, I wanted again go back to the beginning, and capture my life, my childhood, those memories growing up in Orange County. But as you, Brenda, know very well, I don't like anchors. I don't like labels. I don't like, I love roots, but I have more wings. I'm more of a butterfly than a tree.
There's that Libra again.
Yes.
The
And
air
so
sign.
I move. I have always moved, even as little. We lived in three different houses in La Habra as a little girl, or from little girl up to adulthood. And so people say I live out of my car because in one day I travel Southern California. I could be in the desert in the morning, and then I'll be in LA at night. So I had to capture it. So that book made a U-turn. I was like, it was just going to be Orange County and maybe LA, and it made a U-turn. It's like, no, honey, you got to go the freeway, because I travel this whole country on the road. And so I love to drive. And so, but I ended in Oklahoma.
Which
tentatively,
yes.
Tentatively, because borders are non-existent. So even though I did keep it to the quote unquote, United States and defined it there. When I head out east, that's where things get blurred. So you don't know if it's talking about Nevada, if it's talking about Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, it could be in Tennessee or as Tennessee.
Right.
And so that's where it took me.
Right.
I didn't take it. And so that's kind of like the beginning, right? And she said, as the shadow work that takes us to the final piece of healing and enlightenment.
You wrote it, you almost wrote it backwards, but it's it makes total sense, because it's like, that is where you were. That is where you are, rather. You are in this place of enlightenment, and in this place of power, because you have danced with your shadows, because of those historical roots, right? And those sacred places, that all of that is home to you because of those wings. So that's very profound, that you messed with time itself.
Well, and that's what Heyokas do. I'm not proclaiming to be a Heyoka, let me make that clear, but I'm fascinated with Heyoka and their magic. And, good old Shrek, his analogy of the onion. Just because we have journeyed and have found this ultimate being at peace,
right,
it doesn't mean that we're done. And it's time to circle back and go back and peel the next layer and take the same journey towards that final culmination.
right.
So it's just like school, right? We culminate elementary, and then we culminate middle school, and then we culminate high school, and then, for many of us, we culminate higher education.
Right.
It doesn't end.
It doesn't end. And we're not done yet.
No.
For as long as there's breath in our lungs, right? We're not done. You're not done yet. And this is really still very much although you've been writing, I know you've been writing forever and ever, this is still the start of your writing career.
Yes.
You're about 3 years old in your writing career, and you're so prolific. You're dropping a book a year, and it's hard for any of us to keep up. Which is so right?
The other day, I was doing a reading and I said, like, okay, so a poem for my first, a poem for my second, and now a poem for my third. And I paused and I said, God, I must really be Mexican. I pop them out every year.
Whoops. Yes, you do. You're hardcore Mehi. Yes, which is why the collection about Mexicali will be so like beautiful and passionate. That I know will come eventually. But yeah, it's like after the water started flowing, it just kept going. And there you are going down the river, and
Yes.
doing all kinds of things. You've been to Brazil. You're a Chicana slam champion here in the United States. And then you picked up another couple of slam championships, in the last couple of months. I think it's only been a couple of months. You're just like, and I remember the first time you did the slam, or actually even prior to that, you were like, slam, but then you did it and you were in it and you just like, that one's mine. And there you went to Rio de Janeiro.
Yes, you're absolutely okay.
Abya Yala slam. Tell us what that was like.
Abya Yala. Oh my gosh, that was scary. It was so scary. It was so scary. I froze. That's what happened. Because
On
you're
stage.
absolutely right. I did. I did. I totally fucked Brazil up. And
yet there's this beautiful photo of you. You must have frozen in that position because it's like this like powerful force, on stage, gorgeous lighting, looking just majestic, and you must have frozen in that position.
That's when I started over. That's when I got the second win. But because yes, I mean, okay, so the first spoken word was at Cabe, the bilingual, and I tied. Cabe started doing spoken word during the day. And the first time I went, it was a tiny group and it wasn't really a competition. It was just, they just incorporated it. And then the following year, they presented as a slam word competition. But even then, I just kind of showed up and here's this poem. I made everybody laugh. That is a poem that will be coming out in the next book. I'm holding on to that one. And so this other gentleman and I, we tied for first. And I was like, oh, wow, like people loved it. A poema en español. And then Brenda, you told me about Slam Diaspora. And it took a couple of months for me to finally get there. And I did. And yeah, I just showed up and did me. And I'm like, oh, I won. Oh my gosh. And then a couple of months later, like, okay, this is the Grand Slam. You qualified. And I went and they were all great. Every time I've gone in, I'm like, oh my God. And I won. And they're like, you're going to Brazil. Oh my God. I'm going, what? What? And so we get there and Brazil is doing the airs. And that was very intimidating because Brazil, they're badass with their spoken word and slam. That's like, yeah, these people go on to the World Cup. And
powerhouses, yeah.
I was there from Abya Yala for the Abya Yala, which was the continental competition. And I was in the first round. I was like the second one up, and I'm like, oh my God. But it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I saw a lot. I heard a lot. And
you went to Brazil. Poetry took you to Brazil.
I went to Brazil. It was amazing, amazing. If one thing I fell in love with the Brasileiros is their style. They're like fingerprints. Nobody is exactly the same. I came on with a pair of earrings. I'm still waiting for the right occasion to bring those out.
Maybe your book release.
Oh, you're right.
If it goes with the outfit.
You're right. No, the colors do. Yeah, the colors go exactly with the outfit.
Yes.
Yeah. So, wow, Brazil.
Amazing. And that I'm sure has poetry coming up in it, that experience, you know.
Well, they're working on an anthology. So I've submitted one of the 6 poems that we had originally submitted. I have 6 poems translated into Portuguese. So that was the other thing, is that they were watching the screen behind me. I never experienced that. I just let me do my stuff, don't check to see if I did it. You know, that was, that was very,
the text. Okay. They're like, watch. Okay.
Correct. But anyhow, just recently they reached out and they want to create an anthology with all of the poets that have crossed through the stage. So we had to pick one poem, and I'm hoping, the anthology is going to come out, but I'm hoping I might be able to get those Portuguese translations. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. They're yours. Yeah. And in a collection that is certainly forthcoming, because knowing you have a file for that. There's a file for that.
That is correct.
So much has changed for you.
Yes.
Since, not even a handful of years ago. Life is very different. What are some of your favorite things about this new writer's life that you're in?
It keeps me out of trouble.
Rita, she set up for that.
Yes.
For the details.
There you go. But it's been a whirlwind, and sometimes there's just so much happening that I haven't had a chance to really sit and chew. I'm a chewer. I'm a Libra. I'm a thinker. I'm an analyzer. I give myself time to just really sit and reflect. And there's been so much happening so fast. That's been the missing link. But you asked me the best parts.
That's okay though. Like I like that you're also sharing. My next question was going to be the challenges.
Yeah, that's been the challenge, because we both spearheaded during pandemic, right? And a lot of people absolutely aboard lockdown. I was in heaven. I was in Rancho Paraíso de las Diosas, this place, and I really struggled to come out of my cocoon. I didn't want to. I still sometimes struggle.
Yeah.
I just, not that I want pandemic and illness to be back, but I would like to go back to isolation.
The Hermitage is a nice place.
It's a beautiful place. And now, like, I really must have been a nun or a monk in another life, because I really do enjoy solitude. And so, So
a writer needs solitude. It really is such a solitary practice, but I find that interesting. Like you are out in the world so much. Every weekend you're at different events. You have an event this weekend tomorrow, right, in
Yeah.
Redlands,
Yes.
which is exciting. When do you find time to write? Where, because you're an educator, so you're like in the classroom, during those weekdays, and then on the weekends, I know you're out, at different events, featuring at an open mic, networking in these creative spaces. Has it been hard for you to quiet down and find that solitude to write? Or when do you do it? Because you have 3 books and more on
Uh,
the way.
Anytime I get, so during my lunch, I disappear. I'm in a place where I can literally disappear, and hit nature. Fridays are my days off, so this is when I move slower, sort of. But whenever I have a chance, and when I'm on the road, my audio recorder is my best friend.
Yeah.
So if I cannot, afford to sit there and write it, I'm recording it.
Yes.
And when I have the chance, then I write it out. And that's my processes. I write it and then I type it. That's when I begin edit. And then I perform it, read it, and then I do final edits.
Okay.
But whenever I have a chance, it's like I said, it keeps me out of trouble because I'm here working.
Nose to the grind.
And so yes. And I mean, even when I'm out, like, tomorrow's it's arts collective, bending. Even when I'm bending, like, people are like, you are just sitting there. Yes, I am every moment.
You always
And
have your pad with you. I've seen you writing at open mics.
You've seen, and I please, my peeps, when I'm at open mics, it's because I'm inspired.
Yeah.
I'm not, I heard something and then I have to jot it down or it will disappear. And I'd much rather do it during my waking hours because if I go lie down and I have an idea and I do not get up and write it, I will not sleep. Yeah. I don't sleep as it is. And so it'll just keep me tossing and turning. So then I end up staying up until the wee hours of night because I got to get it out. I have to.
Wow. Yeah, we have to. The urgency, and we've talked about that urgency before, just as writers, where we had been writing and yet that public sharing took a back seat in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's not in the back seat anymore.
Correct.
For you. It's like, it's driving the car.
It is driving the car. It is driving the car. My car used to run for family, for ceremony, for bow out, for supporting my son in that journey. For everyone else, my car ran for everyone else. And now it's running for poetry.
Hey. A beautiful mistress, if there ever was one. Or mister. A beautiful mister. A dashing mister. Give us a poem, Diosa X.
Hey. Any special requests, Ania?
Give us well, I mean, you've performed this in public, so it's you're not saving it for the launch. The Guadalajara piece is of course so iconic to West of the Santa Ana. And talk about roots and origins. And I have a special place for Guadalajara because it's literally we're neighbors. Somos vecinas, right? I'm in Whittier. We're right down the street.
So let's talk about that, Brenda, before I read it.
Yeah.
These are the synchronicities that I have experienced my entire life.
Mm.
Brenda, you and I have literally been neighbors an entire lifetime. And when did we meet? 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah.
And we've been neighbors.
And we've been
this whole
neighbors the
time.
entire time. Yeah. Had we met in our 20s doing poetry? Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize later, Watch out, y'all.
So those are my realities, right? And not just in my own life, in my whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad reunited, met his father after he met my mother. And you're talking about, there are no borders. You're talking about from going to Chicago to Mexico City to Mexicali to Linwood. Those are the stories.
No borders.
That run, correct. All right, so a valley unknown. A ver si me sale. Sorry. Okay. Guadalajara, 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 Guadalajara. Tienes el alma más mexicana, gratas memorias de esta chicana. My first step, my first pet, the place where I first felt regret. Labra, the opening, in ancient Castilian. Palladian portal of light beings, most certainly not reptilian. Despite Nixon's first law office, of course. The valley between La Puente and Fullerton's Coyote Hills, midpoint for enlightened ancestors and childish tricksters looking for thrills. The invisible borderlands between the great OC and LA County's vast and varied diversity. Ay, 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 Unión de Tula, where everyone seemed related except for this little chula, where Adriana was always Adriana, not a slaughtered Adriana. A citrus-covered valley, in no way a barren savanna. The corn festival parades that ended at El Centro Park, OLG's annual fiestas that always got hotter after dark. Hands across America down Whittier in the 4th grade, the Gary Center and Rosie's Garage where beautiful dreams were made. The Interactive Children's Museum, first of only a few, a place where you knew everyone and everyone knew you. Barbara's notorious palm readings and psychic premonitions, Margarita's garage made studio, fashion designer creations, Disney's spectacular fireworks show, which was really not that far. ER visit due to Valencia Elementary's misfortunate monkey bar. The Zapster twins, El Pájaro Nalgón, Archicote wearing quebradita crew chingón. Jimmy Quack Quack y La Joyona, radio's iconic Jimmy Reyes live and in persona, home of the famous Brown Pride ride. El Campo, a place filled with Mexican pride. Ditching parties and hickeys on Grace, Highlanders versus Raiders, never-ending high school race. Twisted ankles and posadas off Pacific, 24-hour runs to Taqueria de Anta, get terrific. Bus rides to the ocean down that oh so famous beach, then down Harper Boulevard for that higher education preach. Nothing will ever be its authentic Mexican panaderias, nor my tia Consuelo's cocido and homemade flour tortillas. Guadalajara, a valley unknown, a place I called home.
Yes, I get the chills. I get the chills with that piece because it's all so familiar. it's also familiar, but I think even for people that aren't familiar with La Habra, and this area, this valley unknown, as you call it, it could be home in so many other different places. That's where you're crossing boundaries and borders. Jimmy Quack Quack, Barbara, ditching parties, hickeys, those panaderias, like we have those in our neighborhoods,
Right.
you
Right.
know, prior to gentrification, if we're still blessed to have our tienditas and our panaderias, and it's like you mentioned earlier in the preface, it's a snapshot you've
Yeah.
given us, but you've given us a tactile snapshot in this collection. It has handles and it tastes like. In another piece you talk about imperial burgers, in
Yeah.
this piece you talk about taqueria de anda, which is like has the bomb carnitas, right? So it's so flavorful.
Well,
It's so flavorful.
our cultura is
Mm.
like everything. There's always food. If there's a food, it's not donde hay, como dice la vida, donde hay uno, donde hay dos, estoy yo. I mean, there's food.
Right. There's always food. As
Yes.
poor as we can be, there's always going to be comida somehow. We share and we bring it, and it's just.
And there's always leftovers. That's the amazing part. There's always.
It's like the feeding of the 5,000 in scriptures.
Yes.
Something miraculous happens when community comes together, familia comes together, and to share in banquets and celebrations. Un poquito se hace mucho. My dad likes to quote, yeah. And it's so true. And you took me back to the citrus groves. I remember seeing those citrus that are gone now. These citrus groves are gone.
A lot of what I capture is gone.
Mm.
My tia Lupe, she had like a half acre.
Mm.
It's gone.
Yeah.
They built apartments. There's $500,000 houses for sale, and like, this is insane.
Right.
And so, I mean, the panaderia is still there, but
yeah, they are still there. In Whittier, they're not. There's very few. Most of them, the ones that I grew up with, are gone, long gone. The little tienditas, but some of them. I go to get my tamales in La Habra.
Yes.
The opening. Yeah. So vast.
And that's because it's between the hills, right? We have La Habra Heights, which are the hills, and then Fullerton, which are the hills.
Money.
Yeah.
And then the head, they live right here.
Correct.
The other reason I love this collection is because, one, I'm totally biased, because it's my neighboring city, right? People know I love to talk about Whittier all the time, South Whittier specifically, but so much in Southern California, in our Chicano, Chicana, Latino, Latinx, in our brown communities, so much attention is on East LA. Unincorporated East LA, not my neighborhood, right? But like closer, and Boyle Heights. But so much of our population and of our workforce, right, our working class people that sustain the LA economy and therefore the California economy, they're in these neighborhoods.
Correct.
With
and going south, right? In Orange County. Everybody thinks Orange County, it's all full of white people. And I never spoke English in the streets of La Habra. Todo mundo hablaba. I don't live there anymore. I haven't for a long time. En la calle se hablaba español en La Habra.
Yeah.
So when the transition to the Inland Empire, and my mom and her like, there's a bunch of brown people, pero nadie habla español.
No hablan español, right?
We had a huge culture shock when we moved out to the Inland Empire, because like,
What?
But everybody speaks Spanish. What do you mean you don't speak Spanish?
Just because you're brown doesn't mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a huge culture shock
Right.
because everyone in La Habra spoke Spanish.
There's still such a big, I'm always amazed. There's as much as the gentrification has taken a hold of that community, there's still such a presence of immigrant community or Spanish speaking
Yeah.
community in La Habra. You know,
Yeah.
it's tight. The Tamal Festival happens every December, and it's huge. If no one heard about this,
which is newer,
right.
which is why I didn't mention it, because that happened after I left. But yeah, huge festival.
Right.
Yeah.
Huge festival. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Oh my goodness. Do you happen to have do I have it handy? I'm trying to figure out how to share your book cover, because I wanted to ask you about you designed the book cover for West of the Santa Ana.
That's correct.
Right? Let me see if I can open it up. A ver.
I proudly say I've designed all my book covers.
Hey, that's amazing.
And even the pictures in a church of my own, those are all my pictures, because my son and I and other people that were in our lives at that time, we love cave hunting. We love
hunting.
We love to go looking for caves, and in Nahualismo, that's like the perfect place to
Oh, I love it. Let me see if I can share the screen so folks can see it, and I'm really keeping my fingers crossed you don't accidentally see my desktop, which is a hot mess.
Well, I only see you.
For now, you only see me, but I'm going to share my screen. A ver.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Da-dun, da-dun.
A website.
And a website, because that's where I have it on. And look at that. It's available for pre-order. This is our commercial break. Yeah, check it out, everyone. This is the cover for West of the Santa Ana and Other Sacred Places. It has such a different vibe from your first two collections that I have here. I'm gonna give me a moment. They're at the top of my bookshelf. Here's the first one, A Church of My Own. There's the cave.
Yep.
We're still in book design, so that's why we don't have a proof of West of the Santa Ana. Yep. This is Hechicera with, I love them. I always love the matte covers. Look at that. Woo! Cool as hell. What a different vibe. West of the Santa Ana.
Hugely. This is my least multilingual collection, by the way. It's mostly in English. So here's the irony before we go into the cover. I grew up in this city in a time where everyone spoke Espanol, but I didn't speak it with my friends. Isn't that crazy? En mi casa, puro español, but I was like, you know what, Lucy and I, we always spoke in English. You know, the twins, Laura, Vero, we all English. But everywhere else was Spanish, and of course in school. I mean, it just took me back to reflect on that. Like, how is it that you live in a predominantly Spanish-speaking community, but that's part of that kind of quote unquote resistance, right? Because that was the language of our parents. No, right? But my journeys back to Mexico, you know, something happened that just flipped a switch, and I said, "Que mensa, I haven't been using my language other than when I had to." I mean, yeah. And then this love for language is this love for la cultura, lo mexicano, and you're going to see that in the future with the other elections that, when a cousin from Mexico says, and my nickname is Negra, cuando dicen, pinche negra, tú eres más mexicana que ni los nopales. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah.
You sure are, girl.
Hell yeah. So anyway, I had to share that for whatever reason.
I love it. No, I remember being in the writing workshop with you, and even when you were writing in English, the rhythm of your work is Mexican, and you wouldn't. And no one I know, we were the only Chicanas in that class. So I'm like, these guys aren't catching it because they just don't know.
Yeah.
You have to, and musical. It's musical.
That
the ranchera is in it, 100%.
Right.
And it blew my mind because even in English, not just only the Spanish stuff, the English stuff too, had that rhythm.
Well, you know who, Doña Ofelia from Tonali Studios. During the pandemic, we continued the Noches Bohemias. It was just a small gathering. And I shared one of the poems that's in Hechicera. And she's like, I hear the guapango. She goes, oigo el son, oigo el guapango in the poem. And thank you for sharing that. You took me back to her comment, that poem in Spanish, but
100%.
But even in English, wow.
Yeah, it's even there in English. Absolutely. And I remember because a lot of our teachers with that organization, they're influenced by like hip hop rhyme schemes.
Yes.
You were not a hip hop rhyme scheme, you're the Mexicanada rhyme scheme. But they didn't, I know they didn't observe that or see that because they didn't know that.
Right.
I was like, damn, this is crazy. Because rhyming is one of my biggest challenges. I'm a free verse kind of poet. So I always appreciate that craft. And that seems to come so natural to you.
Music runs in my veins. Yeah. And, even with my son, I did all this reading about, pregnancy, and I wanted to give my son, the best chances. And I read about classical music and I would play that. And then I'm like, ¿y las rancheras qué? And I would sit there and he'd listen to rancheras with me. And so my intentionality in my pregnancy was to infuse all of this music. And lo and behold, the Tewa is a musician.
He's a musician, and like it just dropped. He wrote a film score.
That's correct.
His
first film score, and it's going to be showcasing in Hollywood at the Chinese Theater. So
this is epic, all because of that musical influence. It permeates.
Absolutely.
And just obviously coming from the tradition of storytelling, you are a storyteller, a poet, and like you say, music runs in your blood, and it most certainly runs in his.
Yes.
So yeah. I want to talk about the cover a bit.
Okay.
It's pink.
So do I.
That was my first thing when you sent it to me. I was all, oh, it's because it's like, again, so different. This you have the deep dark, the shadow tones. Even in the church where there's still light, there's light there, but you're in the cave, right? It's such a mystical place. And then Hechicera, pues, I mean, what can we say about Hechicera? Again, the basement of the church. You were talking about spending time with the shadows, but here we come out to west of the Santa Ana, and she is pink.
And she is pink. And you and a few other people know that she was supposed to be like, I originally had this vision of kind of like, ay, se me fueron los nombres, but the classic Mexican earless, And it was in my mind, it was these dark, earthy colors, una mujer morena, same image, but they were these earthy, surrealist kind of painting is what I had envisioned. And even the cover morphed.
Yeah.
Even the cover morphed because I just wasn't getting any leads. And I said, you know what? Okay, because I'm supposed to do this. Again, I was trying to find an artist and it just wasn't happening. So the vision is still the same, but it came out pink, and rightfully so, because it takes us back to childhood. And I do want to, straight out give the disclaimer. It is a semi-autobiographical, quasi-geographical, because I don't like boxes and straight lines. I color outside the box, the lines.
Yes, you do, love. Yes, you do. And then she's upside down. Now, you told me the other day, your mom, that was the first thing. Your mom,
Yeah.
when she saw the design of the cover,
Yes.
she made a comment about, why is she upside down? Está de cabezas.
Uh-huh. So esta morena is on her head, a symbolic representation of this. It's Catholic, but it's not Catholic. So this idea of putting saints on their head when you ask for miracles. So it's Catholic because of the saints, but it's not. It's more of an indigenous kind of ritual to put saints on their head when you're asking for miracles.
Look at that.
And so that's the iconography of this queen. She's crowned with the flowers. So she is a queen. She's a goddess. She's royalty. She's the divine feminine on her head, hoping for miracles.
When I first saw it, I felt like it also, and as I was reading through your collection, it also goes to that childhood place of whimsy and of imagination. Maybe because me and my sister always we would lay on our bed upside down. The blood rush. So that's where it took me initially.
Wow.
Is to that childhood place of giggling and being playful and wanting to see the world from different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then it's also the hangman, I've got to say.
Yeah.
I mentioned that to you before too.
Yes.
This place of contemplation.
Correct. Which it's only in contemplation that we can fully move forward with confidence. Because if we're not reflecting and analyzing where we've been and what we've done, then we're just moving about willy-nilly with and people.
And you talked about that earlier, you're a thinker, to have time to ruminate, to absorb, and really think on, to reflect, to contemplate, to use your word right now, on all that has happened. And this book takes you there. Because even while you were writing, that is when you do your contemplating, you mystic you. Right? That's what I see.
Yes. And pink, the typical, what's always been used for girls. Because I am a girl.
You're a cutie girl, yes. And that can be claimed and celebrated. Yeah, absolutely. While still dancing with the shadows, and reaching for enlightenment.
Yeah, and I tend to be serious. People think have labeled me intimidating
Mm.
because I stay in my bubble, and until you get to know me, you're like, oh, because I'm a little girl. The more you know me, the more you know how childish I can be.
Yeah. Playful and whimsical
Very,
and silly.
very,
Right.
and silly, and music. I'm just always dancing and singing. And you wouldn't think that. I know people don't think that. They're like, oh, shit. I don't even know if she has friends.
But if you hang out with Diosa after reading, you'll end up dancing with her at the club next door to the bookstore. Hey.
Oh, there you go.
Always include a dance party after your readings, guys. Just saying.
I know.
Have the music. Have the music.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
well, we have the cumbia, the catacumbias.
That's right. What are we? So you have the book release is coming very soon.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're in June. So now I'm feeling the pressure of the publisher. Like this book needs, the quickening is happening. And that's always a panicky time for someone that has anxiety like me. We're targeting the celebration and the book release for July 7th. And do you want to give us a little bit? I mean, I know the details, but do you want to share with the public, or maybe it's not time yet? I don't know. I'll leave that totally up to you.
Yes.
What can they expect from the book release?
Well,
¿Y dónde?
It's ideally the most ideal day, the National Day of Chocolate, which, let me pause. Synchronicity. What day is it today, Brenda? Do you know what day it is today?
Today, in terms of like National Day of something?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Today is the National Day of Donuts.
Oh,
how
yeah.
apropos that we're doing this interview on National Day of Donuts. Anybody who knows me knows I love sweets. Pues por eso estoy gordita, no estoy gordita de this is all chocolate, donuts. I'm a chocoholic. And so, apropos today of National Chocolate, July 7th, 2023, which equals to 777.
777.
Chocolate for this little niña who grew up on Carlos Quintos. That's my favorite chocolate.
Oh, Carlos Quinto, yeah.
Carlos Quintos. And we're going to be having a beach party.
Whoop, whoop.
Heading out to where the Santa Ana River meets the ocean. So we'll be gathering in Newport Beach on July 7th at 7 p.m.
7 p.m., baby. I love
it. And bringing in the sunset. Yeah. And
that's exciting.
In a circle, not a bed of roses, but in a circle of roses.
A circle of roses. It's going to be so ceremonious and beautiful. And it's always a special occasion when a writer launches their book into the world. And this is that. It's a special occasion. It's an auspicious occasion. Bring Diosa flowers, bring her chocolate, donuts, now we know, bring layers, bring your own share, bring a cobija if you want to sit on the ground. I at the beach, I want to be on the ground,
Yes.
So yeah, come and pre-order your book. Support these indie writers, this indie publishing house. We're excited to have this in the world. Diosa, we always laugh because Diosa says of herself that people always ask her to be the first to go, like the first to step into the water first and whatnot. And sure enough, she is. She's the first writer besides myself that's being published in my publishing house. Thank you for the honor.
No, thank you. Thank you. I am So excited to be a part of Bright Roses and see what's to come too.
Yes, the
Many
world
other
of,
amazing writers.
yes, more writers to come, but it's been
Yes.
such an honor. Do you want to close us out with a poem before we say adios for now and before we go get
Sure.
our donut fix
I know.
for National Donut Day?
We must.
We
We
must.
must.
That's so
Uh,
funny. I just saw the Judy Blume documentary. Has anyone else seen it?
mm,
And I forgot all about it. The quote. I think it was in "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret." We must increase our bust. Do you remember
oh,
that? Anyway, when you said we must, that came to my mind. So
yes. Oh my
Judy
God.
Blume,
Yes.
go support her. Fan books.
Yes. Is the we didn't talk a lot about the waters and the rivers, but
Mhm.
um there's a poem that I'll read.
And I was going to ask you an important question about your theme song. I'll let you read and then we'll ask. Do you want me to ask you first?
Yes, while I scroll and find this.
Okay. So you have a theme song for this book, and we've used it. We used it for a reel on the social media pages.
Yeah.
Tell us about the theme song. What is the theme song, and why is that the theme song for this particular collection?
So Down by the River by Buddy Miles. I always want to call him Muddy Waters.
I was gonna say the same thing. So funny. Buddy
Buddy
Miles.
Miles. Down by the River. Down by the River is one of my playlist songs when I'm on the road. And my son was very little when he first heard this. And later on in life, he's like, Mom, really? You like had me listening to this song about this, it's a violent song.
It's
It
a violent
is.
song.
But that song is so deep, and you could feel his passion,
Mhm.
his love, his remorse, his pain. And I know that when we write, that's where we have to go.
Mm.
And just like rancheras, and one of the poems also talks about, CLI, we're the blood-letting rancheras,
Mm.
right? That's, for me, poetry, that's what it's been. It's like this bloodletting
Yeah.
documentation
Mm.
of the heart, of the sentiments, and but the rivers, right? The title of the book is a play on west of the Mississippi, but we don't live there. We live by the Santa Ana.
Santa Ana.
And so so the rivers, we know that, mini which only water is life, water is healing. And being that I'm always on the road, and have traveled across the United States, and connecting to all these rivers and streams, and where do they end up, in the ocean, and where does that end up in our sky? Where does just the cycle
Yeah.
of the waters, and
The
how
connectedness. Mhm.
and you are a water sign. I'm preaching to the choir here, but
I love me some water.
so there's this continued theme of waters and rivers throughout the book as well. And so one of the last poems that I added after I sent it to Brenda, dear audience, after Rite of Roses had already edited, I was like, oh.
Let me add one more poem.
I'm sorry, Brenda.
Diosa gets special permission because she's a dear friend, but don't even think about it. Other writers doing that to your publisher.
Don't. But anyhow, okay. So down by the river, surrounded by water, in the beginning, Atl antes, Lumeria, Tenochtitlan, turtle emerges from the deep blue sea to give us this, our island. In the womb, we grow to the sway of amniotic fluid, como los ríos, como la sangre. My blood flows, my tears flow, my dreams float on the surface of a lake, exposed with nowhere to go, because man has dammed the rivers.
Ooh. Ooh. Love it. Everyone, you've been listening to Diosa Xochiquetzalcoatl, the author of 3 books, A Church of My Own, Hechicera, Sus Sultry Spells, and most recently, coming soon, 777 at 7 p.m., west of the Santa Ana and other sacred places. Thank you so much for joining me, for being the first to do this YouTube live with me. We'll see what it looks like when it goes out into the world. I appreciate you, Diosa. I appreciate your art. I appreciate your poetry. I appreciate just how prolific you have been, and something that we can all strive for. And just, again, the bloodletting of your heart on the page is so healing for me, and I know for many other readers. So thank you so much for putting these books and these stories into the world.
Ditto, comadre de letras. It is an honor to be your friend, to be your writer in your publishing house. And this has been an incredible journey. And you've been through all of this published writing career journey with me. And it's been amazing. And salud para lo que viene.
Salud! Oh, my coffee's over there. Darn it. I promise I will salute to it in just a moment.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Make sure you share this video and stay tuned for more Friday Fire on YouTube Live. We'll see how this goes. Much love. Getting down with Diosa X. Friday Fire, Brenda